is the Denon DP-29F, a higher quality alternative to the Audio-Technica LP60X. Stay tuned to find out. Hello YouTube, Chris the Frugal Audiophile with you. I know it's been a while since I've done a review, but I'm not going to make excuses. It just is what it is. So today I want to talk about this turntable that I found, and actually one of my viewers put a comment on my review of the Sony automatic turntable mentioning the Denon here. And I thought, oh man, that's kind of interesting. Maybe it's worth checking out. So I eventually picked it up and I spent some time with it. And so today I want to review this product for you. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Okay, in this section we're going to talk about design and specs. And sometimes design and specs, they can kind of overlap a little bit. So I'm just going to lump them both together, and you can decide if something is a design element or a spec. So to begin, we have primarily a black plastic housing on this one. That's right, no wood or metal really to be found except for in some of the connections. And also the platter is a nice high quality metal platter. I do appreciate that about this unit. And then we have a rubber plastic mat, better than a felt mat. We also have attached RCA and power cables. That might be a knock on the unit. Stay tuned to find out. Then we have a smoked plastic dust cover. And you see the dimensions there on the screen. Basically, this is a 14 by 14 by about 4 inches high unit. So smaller than a lot of turntables. And it only weighs 6.2 pounds, which might be convenient if you have a tight space to put this in where weight and size matter. What you're looking at here is a belt-driven platter. And this turntable has automatic and manual playback functionality. You can do either one. You see some other specs on there that I will not cover, but they're on the screen for you to look at. One thing I do want to know is that you have a fixed stylus pressure of 3.5 grams. So there's no changing that. You do have a built-in preamp with this unit, and it does have the RIAA curve. Two things to note on that. This preamp can be disabled, however, the switch for that is underneath the platter. So it's not something you're going to be able to easily do on the fly, although it can be done. This is a 2-speed turntable. On the unit, you have speed and record size switches. One is a switch, one is a button. Then you have play and stop buttons on the front of the unit. And for the DP-29F, you're looking at a cost of around $200. Now I got my unit here on sale for $180, and it does go on sale occasionally, plus you can find used units for cheaper than that $200 price, but on average it's going to be a $200 unit. So is it worth it? Well, stay tuned to find out. And this brings us to the assignment for the 29F, and that is to be a decent quality, affordable, automatic turntable that is easy to use and sounds good. So how did it do on that assignment? Well, of course, as always, let's begin with what it gets right. First, I do like the automatic playback. You have one button to press for the tone arm to lift, align itself above the record, and then begin playing. You don't have to fiddle with any of that yourself. It's just all done automatically with the press of one button. That is handy. So I'm sure you're wondering about the sound quality of this unit. And if you look at it, you see that it has the fairly standard Audio-Technica basic cartridge. Denon rebrands this, but if you look at it, you can tell it's something made by Audio-Technica, who actually does make quite a bit phono cartridges on the market, and you'll recognize the white stylus. That kind of will give you an idea what to expect. This is not a bad cartridge. It is moving magnet, not ceramic, so that is a good thing, but it's the lower tier cartridge and stylus combination on this unit here, and that is going to translate into the sound quality. Now, I would not say that this unit has bad sound quality. It is actually quite decent. I was listening to Jade Bird's self-titled album. Yes, I have that on vinyl, one of my favorite vinyls that I own, and it sounded rich and full. I was getting all of the audio reproduction that is on that album, and I did not feel like anything was really missing. And then I put on some Henry Mancini, one of my favorite new artists or composers, if you will. On his compilation album called Magical Music, the orchestration, it sounded very natural and full. It did not sound like there was an orchestra in my room, but it did not sound bad at all, and it was enjoyable to listen to. So I thought that the sound on this one, although not quite as good as my RT81, more on that later, was still really good. Better than the Audio-Technica LP60. Also, I do like that it has the RIAA curve. I think that helps just slightly improve the sound of vinyl. And of course, that is defeatable. If you use this in just standard mode without the preamp, turn it off, then it will defeat that curve. And then the sound will be determined more by your preamp than this unit, although the stylus and the cartridge and the tone arm and all the things, they do play a part in the sound, but I think the preamp really makes a big difference. So if you were to switch out the preamp, you would have the sound more of that preamp than of the 29F here. So what I did that, I connected this unit to my Fluence PA1 phono preamp, and it sounded a little bit better. There was more clarity to be found. In your Mancini's orchestration, it just sounded a little richer and it sounded bigger. So those are things to keep in mind. Although the built-in preamp is decent, adding your own will help improve the sound. Although it was better with the PA10, it wasn't night and day, so you could really get by using the built-in phono preamp, but I like to add my own preamp, and so I'm glad that is an option. Keep in mind there's no grounding screw, so this unit is internally grounded if that matters to you or not. Now this unit, it really reminds me of the Audio-Technica LP-120X, because that model is a little higher quality and it's a little bit bigger than the 60X, and so I think this is more along the lines of a 120X, which is like a $250, $300 unit. I've not heard that unit, I've not tested it, so I can't really speak to it. That's just going by pictures and what I've read on the internet. And I would say that this unit, it sounds very similar to that Sony PS-LX310 BT turntable that I had and I reviewed just a few months ago for you. Although that unit seems to be built a little bit better and sound just a little bit better. I mean, it should. It costs $50 more. They are very similar. And if you want an automatic turntable and you want to spend $200 or less, this really is probably going to be a good option for you. Stay tuned for my recommendations. Finally, I do like the compact size of this turntable. If you have a tight space, if you need to store it and you don't want to take up a lot of room in your storage, this would be a good option for that. But as you can see here, a record does fit completely on the platter without going over the edges of the plinth here. On the LP60, that's not the case. The record goes off the edges because it is so compact. So at least it is big enough to hold a 12-inch record without any overhang. All right, so now it's the part that we've all been waiting for. What does it get wrong? Well, the first thing I'm going to cite is no pause button. On the Sony turntable, there was a lift button where you could lift the cartridge or the tone arm off of the album and it would stop playing, and then you could press the button again and it would rest right back down in that exact same spot, basically acting as a pause button, you know. And I looked over this turntable, I tried a bunch of different button presses and schemes, and I even read through the entire manual and I saw no mention of a tone arm lift or the ability to pause your vinyl playback. So that really bugs me because it would be nice to be able to pause a record once I start playing it. Say I need to go to the bathroom or I want to go get a drink or a snack. I don't have to miss part of the album in order to do that. So I think that is a big misstep for the 29F here and something that really bothered me. Next, although not awful, the plastic housing does feel a bit cheap. As I said, this turntable doesn't even weigh 6.5 pounds, so it's quite light. It feels a little better quality than the Audio-Technica LP60, as I mentioned. Nevertheless, it really seems flimsy in comparison to my Fluence RT81 that I have in there. I recognize that a turntable does cost more money, but not that much more. And so that's something that I found a little bit disappointing with the 29F here. I also do not like the fact that the power and connection cables are internally attached, so they cannot be removed from this unit. So let's say one of those breaks or the cord gets stripped, or maybe, this has happened to me a few times, you run it through the vacuum and now it's messed up. Well, you've either lost your turntable, or you're going to have to go inside and internally rewire it. Now that's not impossible to do, but a lot of folks are not looking to do that on a turntable when a cable is ruined. They just want to replace the cable and move on with life. So I think that's a big miss with this turntable, something that was also true with the Sony turntable that I reviewed, and I knocked that one for the same thing. Next, for what it gets wrong, is I want to cite non-removable cartridge. I looked in the manual, I kind of fiddled around with it a bit and tried to see if it would come off. I didn't see any screws on it. I did not see a way to remove this cartridge, not without applying a lot of force, and I did not want to do that. However, I do not believe that this is an option because you cannot adjust the tracking force on this unit. So if you got a different cartridge that requires a different tracking force, well, you'd be in trouble anyway. And I just don't see any way to get this cartridge off. Maybe it can be done. You could replace it with the same cartridge. I know a lot of vinyl fans love to trade out their cartridges and try different sound profiles from different manufacturers and different cartridges. That's not happening on this unit. You can, however, change out the stylus, which is important because the stylus will go bad and then you're going to have to replace it. Denon claims in their manual that you can get 400 hours playback with this stylus. So what's that, maybe 600-700 records? So that's quite a bit, but there is going to come a time when you're going to have to replace that stylus, and that can be done. And in that process, you could actually upgrade the stylus and upgrade your sound a bit. I upgraded the Audio-Technica stylus on my Fluence RT81 in there from the green to the orange, and I did notice an improvement in sound. So it's nice that you can do that on this unit. It's just a big bummer that you can't do anything with the cartridge. And although the sound on this unit here is good, it is not amazing. I do prefer the sound of my Fluence RT81. And that might just be my personal preference. Maybe you would think this one sounds just fine or would like it even better than a different turntable. But personally, I found it just lacked a little bit of detail and dynamic range as compared to my Fluence turntable. And that is with or without the upgraded stylus. I'm sure you're probably saying, well, that should be the case since your turntable costs $50 more than this one and you upgraded the stylus, but Fluence does offer the RT80 at the same price as this unit. It's a wood plinth, it has an upgradable cartridge, and it costs the same as the 29F. And I've heard that one sounds very similar to the rest of the Fluence line. It just doesn't have as many upgrades as the upper tier models, which makes perfect sense. However, that is not an automatic turntable. That is a fully manual turntable. I'm not even sure if it has an auto stop feature. I'll look that up and put it on the screen here. But what you're paying for with the Sony and the Audio-Technicas and the 29F here is that auto playback functionality. So the Fluence turntables are great, but they do not have that feature in them. So it's just really, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a simple, easy to use turntable and you're not really interested in upgrading it? Or are you looking for something that is more manual, maybe not quite as easy to use, but can be upgraded and you can change to the sound profile that you enjoy? I mean, that's really up to you. That doesn't necessarily make one bad versus the other. It's just what it is. And this brings us to our Frugality Grade for the Denon DP-29F here. And I am going to give this unit a C. There are some things that I do like about it, but there's a lot that I really struggle with on this unit, and I had to take off points for that. Things such as the housing, the non-replaceable cartridge, the fact that you can't pause your record, just has to play through when you hit that play button. And all of this were points taken off on the final grade, resulting in a C. I still think it's a quality turntable, and I'd like to offer some recommendations for you if you're looking at purchasing this turntable. First of all, if you want a decent quality automatic turntable and your budget is around $200, this is an excellent choice, and I don't think you'll be disappointed with the 29F. Also, if you don't care about upgradability and you just want something that is easy to use, again, a very good choice for that. I would say that this turntable would make a great secondary turntable. Say you have your, your big audiophile setup in your living room and you've got a fancy Fluence or a Riga or something like that, but you want a turntable for your office. And you're not really looking to hassle with changing out the cartridge. You just want a turntable that works, that has a built-in preamp, and has automatic functionality. This would be a winner in that situation. Not only for that, but also the fact that it's very compact, so it's going to fit in a smaller space. But if you are someone that likes to upgrade your cartridge, you're going to have to look elsewhere. Not going to happen with this one. Also, if you really care about aesthetics, you want something that is super pretty, I don't think the 29F is going to quite fit in that scenario. I mean, it's not ugly, but it's certainly not pretty. With a wood grain plinth and with metal trimmings and accoutrements, it's just not that kind of turntable. My recommendation in this price range would probably be to spend a little bit more and get the Sony turntable, or maybe the Audio-Technica LP120. I think it's about $300, $320. It fluctuates, somewhere around about there. Those units are very similar. They're just a little bit nicer. If you want something that is better built and maybe more aesthetically pleasing, look at the Fluence RT80, as I already mentioned. It actually has a wood plinth. It has more metal components on it. It just is going to probably feel like a higher quality unit. Just keep in mind that is basically a manual turntable and has no automatic functionality to speak of except maybe auto stop. Well, that is my review of the Denon DP-29F. Do you own this turntable? What do you think of it? Do you agree or disagree with my review here? And what are your thoughts on automatic turntables? Do you prefer them or do you prefer the manual experience? I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. But I thank you so much for watching my channel. If you like this kind of content, please be sure to check out Patreon. Also, I have enabled super thanks on my channel here, but just keep in mind, you don't have to do anything, but if you would like to, there are some options for you. And also, remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap.